fields that we hold true. Obviously, you'll study the fields, but it's really drawn upon the liberal arts and the core at Providence College. But through the core and our fields of education and social work, we really teach our students about reflection, inclusivity, engagement, and excellence. And you'll hear from our students how those core values have brought them to not just Providence College, but their experience in the major. And truly, in reflection, we teach a lot about how do you, as a teacher, as a social work, as a professional, think about reflection in the practice that you do in the professional field as you are preparing, not just from a student, but transition into a professional. We talk a lot about inclusivity because when you're a teacher, you're not just really teaching one kind of student, you're teaching all kinds of students. And you really need to be embracing this idea that we're supporting all kinds of families, all kinds of different learners. And the same with our social work majors. They really are thinking about the DEI and how our majors really promote justice and the intercultural understanding and how we value the dignity and respect for each person. We think about engagement as our core value, and we're committed to that because we feel that, especially our faculty, they teach towards excellence, and our faculty are very innovative in their teaching and their learning modalities and how they embrace that into the teaching of their classroom experience. And our faculty, both in education and social work, not only build relationships with our students, so we think about excellence as not just academic excellence, but this idea that we build the relationships with our students, and our faculty really teach towards excellence. They will always be very helpful and make sure that you're improving daily. And we teach towards mastery and towards excellence. So those are the values in our School of Education and Social Work, and it really grounds us. And so we stand apart from other schools of education or other colleges because our values, we help our students think about the values and the mission of why we're here to serve both education and social work. So a quick overview of our majors and programs at the undergraduate level. We have elementary special education. We offer a bachelor's degree in elementary special education. We offer a bachelor's degree in secondary education, but that's actually paired along with a content major. So if your content major is in English or history, and then you also do the professional sequence in teacher pedagogy, that's where secondary education comes along. And then social work is our last third major in our school. We also offer a varied gamut of different graduate programs. However, I know most of the students here are thinking about just undergraduate programs, but it's never too early to think about graduate school. And so this is just a wide variety of the different graduate level programs that we offer here at Providence College in the School of Education and Social Work. So I'll go in a little bit more detail in specifics of each of our majors at the undergraduate level, and I'll just pause and think about graduate level later if there's actually questions related to specific graduate programs. So at the undergraduate world, why do you study elementary and special education? We really feel that our elementary and special education program in our school really allows our teacher candidates, is what you'll be called, or pre-service teacher, they're used interchangeably. We are preparing teachers to have dual certification, not just in elementary, so for 1st through 6th grade, but also in special education for grades 1 through 6. And that dual certification, we really do pride ourselves in that combined certification and how we stand apart and are very distinctive, not in Rhode Island, but in the Pacific, in the Northeast. And so why study elementary special education? We have an emphasis, as I mentioned earlier, in our core values, inclusivity, DEI. We really place our students in a wide variety of different clinical settings. They start out pretty early, especially in their sophomore year, in field and clinical experiences. And not as only there's an emphasis in diversity, but we place them in all kinds of schools, whether it's suburban, urban, so that they can have an approach towards serving all kinds of students in different clinical settings and sites. So that's the kind of the bread and butter of why study elementary special education. And I'll talk a little bit about later how I see there's themes in the two majors, the three distinct majors. But I'll move on to secondary education. And in secondary education, we often call our secondary education majors kind of like the best of both worlds. They study a wide variety of, you see here, listed content areas, whether they have a passion for biology, chemistry, so forth. And we find these students, whether they really love math, but they still have a heart for serving humans in the student world. And so they really capitalize on their content and a passion for their content, but they explore secondary education because they love the idea of teaching and working with students in the secondary world. And so they get not just the content mastery and exploration, but the idea that they can also really have the passion for content in the classroom and serving students that way. The other thing is they're exploring about 30 plus hours in their content major, but they're also adding on another 30 plus hours in the secondary education and partnering up with our faculty in that field where they're studying teacher pedagogy, the content methods in the classroom, so that they learn the depth of not just the subject, but applying that into real world practice. And that's where they're developing the skills for their professional world as to become a teacher. And then the next area is basically why study social work. We have a very renowned, nationally accredited bachelor's program in social work, and that's accredited by CSWE. Our social work program is not only national accredited, but we offer a very distinctive personal touch in our social work program. And that's really grounded back when you think about the mission of our school, but also aligns to the mission of our entire college. Is we really think about the respect for all humans and the purpose to respect cultures and how they are preparing as future social work professions to go out there and to serve the human body. And that's really true about social justice and economic equality. They learn a wide variety of content that really leans onto the liberal arts, but helps them to be transformative as they think about social work. Back to education too, not only is our social work program nationally accredited, but our education program, both at the elementary special ed and secondary ed program, is also accredited at the state level. So some themes that I find across the three important majors, the dominant majors of education, elementary special ed, secondary ed, and social work, is we often get the questions, well, since you have a lot of field experiences, do your students study abroad? And the answer is absolutely. We do have experiences where students can study abroad, and we have those opportunities. At the elementary special ed, we actually have two places that are juniors. When they're a junior, they actually start. Last week, we actually had the Zoom with some students that are in Florence. They were Zooming with some of our students, prospective students who were thinking about studying abroad. And so the two areas that our elementary special ed do go is in Belfast and also in Florence, Italy. And then in secondary and also social work, there's a wide variety of different places that they can study. We partner with our global education office for them to be able to go abroad to the area that most students would really like. And we just kind of think about advising early and explore those conversations way in their freshman and sophomore year as students start thinking about different study abroad opportunities. The other theme that I find across all of our majors is because of our mission-oriented school across those core values, our field experiences, as I mentioned earlier, start really early for elementary special ed. I think they start their sophomore year. For secondary ed and social work, those experiences also start early. I know for social work, they start in their junior year. And then for secondary ed, they're doing, practicums pretty early tied to their content too, so that they can actually apply some of the things that they're learning. The students are here to really talk in depth about how different their field experiences would be across schools. But that's a common theme that we find is distinctive in our program, starting early and allowing students to really apply some of the theories they're learning into the classroom, into real world settings. And then the other last and final highlight of all of our majors at the undergraduate level in the School of Education and Social Work is that not only do we prepare our students very well, but we make sure that when they transition into the professional world, whether they are a teacher or go into grad school or become a social work professional, that they are well prepared. And 90% of our students either are placed in a school with an employment offer before they even graduate. And even our social work, at least 90 to 95% go on to pursue an MSW. And the nice thing about the MSW is most students who do not study social work as the bachelor's program, they have to take lots of content classes. If it's a full-time, it's actually a 2-year program. But because our students are graduating with a bachelor's in social work, it actually only takes 1 year for them to get an MSW. And we find that most of our students do pursue that route. And so PC is actually exploring how we don't have one yet, but in the future, we hope to bring an MSW to Providence College so that we provide that seamless connection from undergrad to graduate world. And so, the last and final thing that we say is we really believe in the quality of all of our programs. And so hopefully this was a general idea and overview of what we offer in our school. So life after PC, I know it's kind of early to think about that, but your parents don't think it's too early. I probably would think that they would want to know what happens after you graduate from UC. So these stats are about 2 years old, but as I mentioned, for this is separated from secondary ed, education, and then social work. You can see the numbers. These numbers actually have gone up. They're either employed, they're attending graduate school. And so we have high percentages of students graduating from PC that either are employed or attending a graduate school. And I'd love for you to follow us on either, any kind of social media, whatever is your fancy, on whether it's Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn. So that's here for you to kind of follow. We always post alumni stories, narratives, the happenings that we're doing in the School of Education and Social Work, stories of students that are out in the field, et cetera. So if you can follow us, you can, if you have LinkedIn, Instagram, or Twitter, this is the platform that you would use to follow some of the stories and the happenings in School of Education and Social Work. So now what I'll do is I'll turn it over to our students that are here with us. We have 4 students from elementary special ed, and unfortunately we had a secondary education student, but she couldn't make it tonight. And then we also have Eva from social work major. So I'm going to turn it over to Eva, Madison, Juliet, and Holly to introduce themselves and just kind of provide a glimpse of their narrative and their experience in PC. So Eva, you don't mind starting?
Hi, so I'm Eva. I'm a senior. I'm a social work major, and I'm also a double major, so I'm in psychology as well. But I started social work my freshman year, the second semester actually, because I came in with psychology, and I went to a major minor fair, and I really fell in love with social work, and everything that I learned at that fair. So right now I'm currently in my field placement as a senior. Last year for junior year, for your fall semester, you do 8 hours of field experience. So for my 8 hours a week, I worked at a nursing home. And this year I have to do 16 hours a week for the full semester, for 2 semesters. So I'm currently in a substance abuse treatment center, which has been a really unique experience for me, because I've had so much independence and I feel so prepared. So I've been giving a lot more opportunities. I'm currently just got my first client. So I'm working one-on-one with someone as a counselor. And then I'm able to observe group therapy and different things like that. But yeah, I'll let the next person go, but just a little introduction.
Thanks, Eva. Madison, if you don't mind sharing who you are and your major.
Sure. I'm Madison. I'm a senior and I'm an elementary and special ed major. I actually came into PC as an elementary and special ed major, so I've been in it since the beginning. And kind of like Dr. Tran was saying, you start sophomore year with your practicum, and I thought that was great experience. Obviously, if we're doing it from the start, we kind of know if we like it, if we don't. So that was great experience. And throughout those 3 years, so sophomore, junior, and now senior year, I've been at all different schools. So that diverse population, you're with all different types of students. So you kind of become really well-rounded by the time you get to senior year because you see a lot of different things. Right now, I'm in my special ed placement in a school in Johnston, so not too far away, a little right next to us. And I'm loving it so far. It's definitely a great experience. I have a caseload of about 10 students, and I'm in an inclusion classroom, so in there full time with them. And like I said, just great experience overall, especially being able to be there every day and see their growth and their progress, even just from September to the beginning of October, the adjustment. It's just been really amazing to be able to follow them and see that. So yeah.
Thanks, Madison. Juliet?
All right, so my name is Juliet. I'm a junior elementary and special ed major. As Madison already talked about, I have practicum this year. So I've already had experience teaching in a practicum specifically for literacy. And then I taught one for math and science last spring, and now I'm in one for social studies. So it's nice that I'm in these classes to learn about how to teach these specific disciplines, and then I'm able to go to the school and use the knowledge that I've gained in class to help my students. Along with teaching, I'm also part of the pep band here. So I have a blast going to hockey and basketball games, and it's really exciting to see everyone show up, and it's a big deal here. We love our basketball.
Thanks. And then finally, Holly.
Hi, my name is Holly. I'm a senior and I'm also an elementary and special education major. Right now I'm in my special education placement and I'm in Pawtucket. So not too far, like 15 minutes. And if I could emphasize one thing about my experience here, it's hands-on. Like in this major, you will be out there, you will just be teaching. You're going to know how to do it by the end of your sophomore year. You feel like you could graduate and be a teacher. You just are going to fully accomplish it. It's so exciting. It's really the first time I was so scared, but you have such good guides, whether it's your professor or it's your clinical educators that you're working with, the teachers that you're working with. You will have such great guidance. So it's just hands-on. You will learn so much. I can't believe like where I started and where I am now. The confidence has just grown so much. So it's really a blessing to be here. It's awesome. It's a great program.
Yeah, and the next thing is I just want each of you to maybe share with our participants here, if you haven't already, a highlight or two about your experience so far at PC. Some of you are at the end graduating, most of you are at the end graduating, but if you maybe just can allude to your experience as a PC student or even in your experience as an elementary special ed or even a social work major. I know some of you kind of started PC already declaring your major and others kind of found out about it, like Eva, who went to a major minor fair. But what particularly interests you in picking the major and why did you stay? And then finally, I know this is a lot of questions. Why should students come to Providence College and study education, special ed, and then, or secondary ed, or even social work?
So I'll start off with the social work aspect of it. So as I mentioned, I came in just psychology because I was coming out of high school and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And I know psychology was something that interested me. And when I went to that major minor fair, there was actually a requirement for my psychology class, which I'm so grateful for now. I think I realized how much social work kind of connected with psychology and just kind of the people aspect. And I know I wanted to work with people and experience those one-on-one connections. So I kind of gravitated more towards social work. And now that I've been in it for the 4 years, I realized how it's such a special major because it is a relatively small major. So for my senior class, there's maybe 12 of us. And we've grown together freshman through sophomore year. We've had freshman and sophomore year, not as many similar classes, but junior and senior year, we're together all the time. And we've been able to connect so much. So you really feel like you have that family as you're growing through the major. And the field placements can be something that was a little daunting when I was a sophomore. And I was a little nervous about it, and I didn't know if I'd be ready to be working with people one-on-one. But having this group of 12 people or the support system, along with the teachers and our advisors who invest so much of their time in getting to know you, it's been so helpful in my confidence going into my field. And I felt so prepared going into my field. And the way that it was set up, they prepared us. We did one-on-one, like peer helping, where we would work directly with students and kind of imitate kind of a client therapist relationship. And we went over all the fundamentals so that our junior year, once second semester rolled around and we had to go into field, we felt ready. And now as a senior, we're still going back to the fundamentals and applying what we learned that first semester junior year to what we're learning within our field placements. So it's really emphasizing that social work is a lifelong learning, even once you graduate college and go into your career. But as far as PC, I've really enjoyed my experience, kind of going off the same thing as social work. As cheesy as it is to say, everybody, I remember I heard it going into my freshman year, the Friar family phrase. But I really do feel like that's true. It's a school where it's big, but it's not too big, and you can walk across the campus and recognize somebody, and it's good to have somebody to wave to or just feel seen. And there's so many ways to get involved. I'm currently in the Board of Programmers, which is a student activities club. So we plan all the events on campus. So that's been such a fun and takes up so much of my time, but in a good way. So I've been involved with that. And I tried chorus for 2 years. I'm not really a great singer, but it was just a fun thing to do to meet people. But there's so many ways to get involved at Providence. And I really don't feel like just a number here. So I'm really sad that this is my last year. But I know that Providence is always going to be here for me. And even when I'm going on vacation on break, I always run into somebody who's yelling "Go Friars" across the airport because the alumni connection is so strong. So I know even when I leave next year, I'm still going to have my connection to Friartown.
I guess I can go next. I specifically came to PC as an elementary ed major, like I said before. While I was doing my college search, something that was super important to me was study abroad. That was one of my main priorities. I've always known since I was in high school that that was something that I really wanted to do. I wanted to explore, travel, get out there, learn different cultures. And PC has just such an amazing program for elementary and special ed majors to be able to do that, because that's something that's not common for us, because we have to get practicum hours, because we have to go student teach. It usually doesn't fit into our schedule, but Providence has made it so that's something that we can do if we want to. So I was able to study in Florence, and Holly also was able to study. And it was just such an eye-opening experience. We actually do a practicum while we're over there. So I was in like the equivalent of a fourth grade classroom with all Italian speaking children, and an Italian speaking teacher. I was the only one who spoke English. So it was definitely, navigating all of that. It was very daunting at first, obviously being the only English speaker there, but it was just, I loved it by the end. It was just such an amazing experience to connect with those kids and learn about, multilingual learners. It was very, very amazing. And I hope everyone, if you can have the opportunity to take advantage of being able to do that. But I love Florence, and currently I'm actually a global ambassador for the Center for Global Education. So if you have any questions, obviously I can answer them. But that was definitely at the highlight of my experience so far at Providence. And kind of like Eva said, that Friar family is a real thing. I remember when I first took my tour, before I even came here, I stepped on campus and it kind of just felt right. And everyone who I passed said hi. It was just so welcoming, and something that I hadn't experienced on my other tours. So, hopefully you can come and just experience what being a friar is like, because it's truly something that's really special.
I knew that when I was applying for schools, I was looking specifically at the elementary ed program. And I remember my mom actually telling me, hey, look, Providence has a dual certification, elementary and special ed. And I hadn't really considered that possibility. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. So that Providence rose to the top of my list for that reason. And now I'm here. And I'm so glad I picked this school, because we're really we're being taught strategies of being a general ed teacher, as well as knowing how to work with those students who might need extra supports in class. And I'm so glad I'm able to learn through that. And well, through practicum, I've been able to work with my peers in classrooms, in a team, and work together and figure out how to create those supports for different students, and differentiate our teaching. I would say that my highlight here, I just have to go back to Pep Band really quick and say my highlight was traveling with the team to March Madness. We've been able to get in the past 2 years. And so we traveled to New York a couple years ago, and this past year we were in North Carolina. So that was a lot of fun. And I really, really love the hands-on learning we have in practicum. I feel like a lot of colleges don't quite offer the program we do. And I was a little bit shocked when they told me I'd be teaching my sophomore year. I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel like I had any of the skills I needed to have. But a year later, I feel like I've gained so much, and I still have a long way to go, but I feel way more prepared and confident than I did a year ago. And I feel like I'm a broken record, but I'm going to say PC is a great place because it's so inclusive, and the Fryer family is really a true thing. I was an orientation leader this fall, and I see my freshman orientation students every single day. I'm just walking to the dining hall. I see like 5 of them, and we all say hi to each other. And it feels like we all are able to recognize each other and check in on each other and make sure everyone's doing well, but just adjusting to college well. So it definitely feels like a family.
For me, it's very similar. I remember I had another school actually in mind, and my mom wanted me to go on a tour of Providence, and I went, and I instantly changed my mind, like on the spot. I remember talking to my tour guide. I was like, I'm going here for sure. I also had a friend who was an elementary and special education major, and she was telling me how confident you're going to be. And confidence was something I struggled with. I knew I could work with kids very well. I love children. I knew I could, obviously, our professors teach us the content very well, but standing in front of 25 kids can be a little stressful sometimes. And my first time sophomore year, I stood up and I was like, I have no idea what to do. I know what to talk about, but how do I get them ready to go? And your cooperating teachers, the teachers that you work with from different communities, they're going to guide you along with your professors. You have so much support at Providence. You have teachers, you have your professors talking with your teachers. You can have meetings with all of them together, one-on-one after school. I mean, you have endless support. You have endless hands-on situations. I just remember my first time not being able to talk, not knowing what to do. And now I walk in every day and I just feel so much better. Like the experience here is different from other schools. You're not just learning how to teach math, how to teach science. You're not just learning the content. You're learning how to really build connections with not only your students, but with the community. So it's really it's a positive thing. Madison and I are actually we have a class called Home Relations, and it's how to work with community members as well. So working with the principal, working with parents, it's just bettering the communities that you're in, listening to the parents' voices. So overall, it's just a very well-rounded program. You get to speak with everyone. You get to learn so much different than anything you've ever known. I'm so lucky to be here. It is really crazy. I never thought I would have the experience that I have today, but I'm very lucky for it.
Well, thank you all, Eva, Madison, Juliet, and Holly. This was actually really remarkable. Your energy and your enthusiasm. I hope our participants were able to kind of be excited on the stories and the narratives that they shared. It was very organic and authentic on really getting a sense of a day in the life of one of these students, whether they were starting out, exploring a major, or now ending and actually now having to think about leaving Providence College. But as you hear, they are always going to feel connected to whether it's the School of Education or Social Work or each other, and then ultimately to PC as a college and their alma mater. So I'm going to just move it on to questions and see if there's any questions in the chat.
Yeah, so none have come through yet, but we'll give our participants a couple minutes to type those in. And I want to echo what you just said. Thank you so much to our current students on. It's clear how much you all are enjoying your experience and loving PC. So thank you guys for joining tonight as well. But yeah, please type away, send in those questions. We'll wait a couple minutes to see what comes through. None have come through yet, but I can kind of get it started. Can any of the students that are on talk about a time when they were maybe struggling or challenged, either in a class or in a fieldwork opportunity experience, and were able to utilize resources around them at Providence to really overcome those challenges or obstacles, whether that was a specific professor or the Office of Academic Services? How did you feel supported during a time when you were challenged?
I have an example. This is actually an abroad example. So this just shows how far Providence can help you. I mean, I was struggling emotionally and academically abroad. It's challenging being in a new place and trying to just learn your way. And while also teaching there, I was struggling. And the professors that Providence provides there is like, they are so supportive and so understanding. They will come in with you. Madison, I know, agrees. I think the connection we all had with our professor there was just unreal. She was so supportive, and she would come in to the schools and help us if we needed extra support. We could stay after. She would really just come and try and talk with the teachers we were working with, work on our lesson plans with us, just even get food with us. Like, you will just have constant support thousands of miles away. Even if you're not on campus, you will always have that support. So whether it's academics or personal life, you will always have the support at Providence. So abroad, I think I needed that extra support, and I got it in every way possible from Providence. So that was that experience for me.
I think for social work, going into certain field experiences, you're going to see some hard things. And one thing that I really appreciate is that after all of my, every week, my field experience, I go back to a seminar group where it's the same group of 6 people, and we all talk about what we did that day. And it always starts off with our teachers asking genuinely just how we're doing. And sometimes it has nothing to do with our field placement. We're just having a hard week at school with other classes. And we can sit there and talk to her and feel like she really cares about us. And we have each other to talk through things. So sometimes you do see hard things, and you can come back and know you have that space to talk through things. There's been classes where somebody tells a story and we just sit there and cry together, and it's a good way to get everything out and feel like you have that team behind you. So you're never going through anything alone. So that's always something I look forward to at the end of the week.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, for those 2 really good examples. Juliet, did you have one more to add?
Yeah, I did. I think I thought of a story. In one of my practicums, this was last spring, I was teaching in a math and science practicum with 5th grade students. And I remember there were lots of times where we heard about hard things that the children were going through at home. And it was hard for us to mentally deal with that while teaching them and supporting them as much as we could. And I remember my cooperating teacher, she was extremely supportive, and she even gave us her phone number and just said, reach out to me whenever you want. We had a really great relationship with her, and I've been lucky enough to have a really great experience student teaching here. So it was definitely a great thing to have.
Yeah, thanks for adding that. It's a story that I hear, or a theme, I guess I should say, I hear over and over again from students, of like professors sharing their cell phone numbers saying, reach out to me any hour, we're here to support you. We did have a couple questions come through. So the first one is, what are most of the classrooms like that students are student teaching in? So are they like mixed special education classes or separate? So those of you who are education majors, if you could kind of touch on your experience.
Sure. So every classroom you go into, every semester, it's going to be different. My first semester, I was in a 2nd grade classroom. My second semester, I was in a 5th grade classroom. So I had both ends of the spectrum. You could be in an inclusion classroom. For special ed, you could be in a resource room where you're pulling kids into your room. So it really just depends on where you're placed or what like domain you're teaching. So maybe if you're in your literacy, you might be with the lower grades, which I actually think they do. I think your first semester usually is 1st through 3rd. And then your second semester is you go to the upper grades, so 3rd through 5th. So you do get both ends of the spectrum, which is really important because you need to know how to teach both, obviously, K through 6. But but everywhere you go, so it could be different, and you get all different types of students. Like I said, it's a very diverse population here in Providence, so you become really well-rounded, like I said before, by the time you finish all your practicum hours and your student teaching.
Awesome, thank you. And then the next one that came through is, what are the top study abroad programs for secondary education majors?
I'll take that question. Secondary ed, we really partner with global education, and it isn't in elementary and special ed, they have the partnerships with Florence and Belfast, but in secondary ed, they actually work with global ed office to kind of envision what makes sense based on what content you've already fulfilled and the number of hours you've filled in the content, and then where you are in the secondary ed sequence of courses. And so it really is very open-ended. We have a really robust study abroad, just in any discipline and field. And so students go as far as, Australia, and as close as, one of our border countries, whether it's Mexico or Canada. So it's a wide variety of gamut based on your content and based on where you would like to be. I can't name like the top ones because it varies on how it actually fits with your content and the teacher preparation courses that you take. I know social work didn't get this question, but they do have a partnership in Augsburg with Augsburg University out in Mexico. And some of our disciplines and fields partner up with very specific institutions, but that doesn't defer social work from partnering up or even going to whatever country that the student wants to go to. It's just we have some specific partnerships with universities.
Awesome, thank you. Those were the only 2 questions we got so far. Oh, one more came through. So as a secondary education major, when would a student start their student teaching experience?
Mostly their junior year. And then we have with RIDE accreditation, because we're subject to some of the high quality that the state demands, we have to fulfill a number of residency hour requirements. And so most of our secondary, actually all of our secondary ed majors at the senior year are student teaching pretty much every day, similar to elementary special ed.
All right, well, I hope that this was informative for everybody who joined tonight. Again, can't thank you all enough, especially those students on the call tonight. It was really great to hear your experiences, and I know it's helpful to those students who are kind of trying to narrow down their college list. So thank you guys. For those of you who are logged in, if you think of questions at a later date, don't hesitate to reach out to the Office of Admission. Either we can do our best to answer your questions or certainly connect you with anybody who's been on the call this evening. So the best place to start would be on our admissions tab, clicking on Contact Us, and you type in your high school. It will show you who the admissions counselor is for your territory. And like I said, we can get you connected with the panelists or answer questions about the admissions process as well. All right, I hope everybody has a good rest of your night, and thanks again, everybody.